Hello, everyone, and welcome to New York City Climate Week. We are excited today to host a panel titled Nature, Tech, and Equity, the New Pillars of Climate Resilience. My name is Jason Rollins. I am a partner within Finn Partners Purpose and Social Impact team, where we focus on communications and PR, specializing in CSR, inclusivity, ESG, and sustainability. We're extremely thrilled to have you with us today, and I'll serve as your moderator. We've also have two incredible leaders and individuals who are joining our panel today as well. Uh, we'll introduce them here shortly, but before we do that, I wanted to talk a little bit about why we are here and why this particular topic is so important, particularly right now. So as many of you, I'm sure, can attest, the world is really facing unprecedented environmental challenges, and the way organizations respond will define not only their future, but also our collective one as human beings. So today we are moving beyond traditional sustainability talks to explore a more integrated and impactful approach that includes nature-based solutions, emerging climate technology, and equity-centered practices. And in addition, a central theme of today's talk will discuss the role of internal communications and how these topics are being communicated to employees and to broader workforces to really drive employee buy-in, to boost awareness and morale, and to position companies as climate resilient employers of choice. So the discussion is really aiming to provide actionable insights for all of you, our viewers, and for companies looking to build more resilient and sustainable operations. So to help us navigate today's topic, we have two amazing guests who both bring unique perspective from two very powerful and global organizations. So first, I'm thrilled to welcome Kristen Delphos, who serves as Vice President of Communications and Public Affairs for UL Research Institutes. Kristen is not only a leader in communicating complex safety science, but also has extensive experience in the logistics and automation sector from previous roles. Her background really makes her an exceptionally well-suited guest to talk about how we bridge the gap between technological innovation and human-centered strategies, and also how we effectively communicate this information to employees. So, Kristen, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Jason.
I'll ask you to introduce yourself clearly in a little more detail, but we also, our second guest today is Chris Micolucci, who serves as Global Senior Communications Business Partner for Dematic. Chris currently leads global internal sustainability communications for Dematic, which is one of the world's largest intelligent automation providers. And prior to Dematic, Chris also held senior level communications roles with both Wells Fargo and UPS. So Chris, thank you also for taking time to be with us today.
Thanks, Jason. Nice to see you, Kristen.
Likewise.
Great. So before we jump right in, we'd love to give you both an opportunity to introduce yourself in a little more detail and talk about each of your respective organizations as well as the role that you serve there. So Kristen, would you like to start?
Sure, that's great. So thanks so much for being our host today and moderator, Jason. I'm Kristen Delphos, so I lead communications for UL Research Institutes, which is one of three organizations in the UL enterprise. So UL enterprise is made up of UL Research Institutes, UL Standards and Engagement, and UL Solutions. If you recognize that mark in the circle, it's probably from when you open your microwave or pick up a lamp and you see that mark on a cord or on a piece of equipment that tells you that that equipment is safe. So UL, our history is 130 years of ensuring that products that we use every day are safe, they're tested, they're researched, and they comply with standards that let the world know that they're safe. I've been in this role for about 3 years, and the work that we do in UL Research Institutes is really rooted in safety science. So going behind the technologies and really understanding whether it's fire safety or battery safety or chemical safety, just looking at what are the threats and risks to technology and innovations that come, and how do we mitigate those risks so that we can really enjoy new technology as it's brought into the world, and make that product and make the world a safer place every day.
Amazing. Thank you, Kristen. So glad to have you. And over to you, Chris.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Micolucci, as Jason said, and I'm with Dematic. I've been with Dematic for almost 4 years, and we're quite different than Kristen's organization because we actually are the company that brings a lot of the products that you purchase that have the UL marking on them to your home, and your various purchasing platforms. So Dematic is a leader in supply chain automation solutions. We are a global company. We operate in about 26 countries. We're part of the Kion Group, which is a global leader in industrial trucks. So think forklifts, fork trucks, and then the supply chain solutions part of that group is Dematic. And we are headquartered here in Atlanta. We have about little over 10,000 employees worldwide. And most importantly, as I mentioned, we provide automation solutions, warehouse automation solutions to some of the world's leading brands. So keep those online orders coming. Keep shopping at some of your favorite grocery stores, all of your omni-channel purchases, because really, for many of those big brands, Dematic automation is fueling that and getting these products to you in an efficient manner. And then I guess I should also say one of the biggest parts of my job and the favorite parts of my job is that I do support sustainability communications. And so that is all about bringing our sustainability journey to our customers and our employees. So just keeping the topic of sustainability relevant and understandable and at the forefront. So that's what I do largely on a day-to-day basis.
Terrific. Thank you, Chris. And I'm sure all of us can appreciate the ability to get all kinds of things delivered to our homes, including groceries and particularly post-pandemic. So very cool to know that Dematic is behind a lot of those efforts. And Kristen, I can personally tell you I've seen the UL logo at a number of different things all around my house. So I have a lot of appreciation for your organization as well. So grateful to have both of you here today. So let's jump right into our topic at hand, if that sounds good with you.
Sounds good.
Great. So our first question. So in thinking about your experience within each of your respective organizations, how do you really see the private sector's role in evolving to address climate resilience? Kristen, would you like to start with that one?
Yeah, for sure. So for us at UL Research Institutes, we consider ourselves a convener. So we know that making progress in the world, especially when it comes to climate resilience and really enacting change, takes that partnership between government, academia, and then the private sector. So we really take that to heart. Everything that we do is open science. It's done and it's published, and we put it out there for the world so that any other organization that's working in this space can take the research that we do and then use it to implement safety science into their organizations. And those collaborations really help us to translate our research into impact.
Excellent. Thank you. Chris, over to you with the same question.
Sure. So within the material handling industry, we are definitely seeing a shift in terms of climate resilience and the topic of sustainability. It's really shifting from a compliance focus to more of a strategic priority. And that's where we truly do approach the topic as partnering with our customers. So they come to us for a solution, an automation solution. And what they want to understand more and more now is what is the environmental footprint of that solution? What is the energy intensity that's going to be required to run this solution? And what is the recyclability of the different, pieces that make it work? So they're really now starting to ask from the start, what is Dematic's life cycle approach to the solutions that we are offering to their business challenges? So that's a shift that we're seeing. That's really important, and it's really impacting the whole world of supply chain solutions. And this was a pretty cool stat that I heard the other week. Within our Americas region alone, we took a look at our top 24 customers, which represent a pretty big portion of sales within the Americas region. And 80%, more than 80%, have a public commitment to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and energy consumption. So climate resilience is a living, breathing thing. It is important, and it's really driving companies and what they're looking to do to just really, be cognizant and shrink their warehouse footprints. So that's what we're seeing in our industry in particular.
Fascinating. Thank you so much, Chris, for that. Great. Well, let's jump right into another question. So, how do you both feel that organizations can effectively communicate their climate resilience strategies internally to employees to really generate buy-in, awareness, a shared sense of purpose, and really enable employees to take pride in where they work and the good things that their employer is doing for the world? So, Kristen, would you like to start on that one?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the biggest ways that we can best communicate it, both to our employees and then also to our stakeholders out in the world, is to not maybe call it climate resilient strategies. And that comes down to storytelling. So I think really translating some of this very technical, very dense information that the world needs to know, but they need to know it in a way that makes sense to them. Our energy transition is very much reliant, you can't see it yet, on our phones that have lithium ion batteries in them. And lithium ion battery technology is something that has helped us to reduce reliance on older forms of energy. And lithium ion batteries are in everything from things like our phones, even to those machines that are in Chris's background there that basically allow automation in a warehouse. So they're everywhere. The average person carries about 27 lithium ion batteries on them at all times when they travel. So while generally safe, those batteries can be compromised. They can go into something called thermal runaway, which is a very scientific and very deep term. But what that means is that you don't want anything that you're carrying on your person to catch fire. So the way that we can make that make sense to people is through storytelling. So most people, you get on an airplane, you hear the baggage handler or the flight attendant ask you if you have lithium ion batteries in your suitcase and your checked luggage, or telling you to keep it, visible when you're on the plane, but they don't tell you why. So within UL Research Institutes, we try to take a storytelling approach, which starts with our employees and then goes out to the public of saying, like, here's why they're telling you that. We want to make sure that, if you're on a plane and something unfortunately catches fire, there's really only one mitigation strategy, and that's to land the plane. So the best thing that we can do is make sure that people know how to transport those batteries safely. So that's what we call just taking that resilience for a sustainable future and then giving people the opportunity to see how they play a part in it.
I love it. I love it. And I think, simplifying complex language for employees is just so important, particularly like frontline employees who don't have time to read long form copy and things. They just need to get it quickly in and out, easy to understand, and using storytelling to help bring those things to life is amazing. So great. Thank you so much. Chris, over to you with this question.
Sure. So we also don't really use the term climate resilience within Dematic. We really more talk about the broad topic of sustainability, and you'll hear me talk about that in a little bit more depth, how we frame it up. But one of the things that we do is we focus on having a relevant and transparent communications strategy. And one of the great ways that we bring this to life is through our annual sustainability report, which is on dematic.com. And it really is all about storytelling. And so that's, for me, fundamentally, internal comms starts with coming up with the strategy. So what is your strategy? Who are your various audiences and stakeholders? And what do they know? What do they need to know? And serving up some content to them that is relevant, that is meaningful, that connects their job to these concepts or to a strategy that, you know, maybe way up here, and some very technical terms that come along with climate resilience and sustainability. So really trying to make it real, trying to focus on the storytelling like Kristen explained. And we also want to celebrate wins. And I just have to say that I'm really excited because we have a win that we're celebrating right now. And it has to do with this background that I have. And it's the fact that our Dematic multi-shuttle 2 has been certified by the Cradle to Cradle Innovation Institute for circularity. So we are Cradle to Cradle certified now, and we are the first in the industry. And okay, so what does that mean? Well, that's where communications comes in. And so in addition to our global news release, we also will be doing some internal storytelling to really explain, you know, what does this mean? Why is it important? You know, what does this mean to Dematic customers, and, you know, all of that. So it's really, you know, kind of, again, like Kristen emphasized, making these things real, making them relevant. And that way, hopefully, internal comms will, you know, rise to the top. People will pay attention. So that's really what we try to focus on with our communications. And then when there's opportunity, we do want to have two-way conversations. So if we have the opportunity to talk about sustainability in, say, an all hands meeting, we often use an opportunity to something called Slido, where employees can ask questions. And then we also have a group of employees that we call our Sustainability Champions Network. And they're like the feet on the street, passionate employees that we, you know, there's dialogue. They meet every month. And so it's just a way to bring these concepts to life, and again, make people feel like it, you know, that their work matters and that their company is really doing the right thing out there in the marketplace.
Love it. Love the sustainability champions concept. That's great. And congratulations to Dematic on that achievement and that certification. That's terrific. Great. Well, the next one is specifically for Kristen about UL. So UL Research Institute's focuses on safety science. So how does this mission inform the conversation around climate tech, particularly in ensuring new technologies are not only effective, but also safe?
Well, for us, and again, thinking about you all as an enterprise and our three organizations working together with that shared mission for a safer world, our organization really starts with the research. So our safety science mission is really critical to helping our affiliated organizations achieve their mission too. So we do research on battery energy storage systems. We are out there analyzing wildfire smoke. I think you know, one of the things that people don't realize is that in this country, there's what we call the wildland urban interface. I think when we think about wildfires, we think about places out west, very dense forested areas, but the wildland urban interface is actually about a third of this country, or 90 million people, live in areas where even if you don't experience a fire, you're going to experience the repercussions of it from a climate point of view. And that could be everything from air quality to you know, the downwinds effects of you know, here in Chicago, when there's fires in Canada, we can smell it and it shuts down our schools. And so there's a real impact on us. So our researchers go out in the field and they test that air quality so that they can make recommendations to communities who are most at risk to be able to mitigate, you know, what could happen. And that's where for us, that equity conversation comes in, because many of the communities that are, you know, most impacted by some of the repercussions of technology or wildfire or things that we see are underserved communities. And so how do we make sure that when we say we want a safer world, that we mean for everyone? And so impacting technology has to serve all as well. And so the research that we do around that wildfire, around sustainable building materials, we're really looking to test things as they're being brought to market so that the safety is there at the beginning. Our Chemical Insights Research Institute is doing a lot of work right now on vaping. And, within UL, again, a product-focused safety organization, we historically have tested the devices, but now in our Chemical Insights division, we're doing research on the cartridges. So what's in the liquid? What's in the thing that people are taking into their body? And with 350,000 chemicals that are in this world all around us, we need to make sure that people understand what the dangers are. So that's really where we look at technology as not just being effective, but also safe to the consumer and to the people who live in the world that experience and need these technologies to have productive lives.
Wow. Incredible work happening at UL across all three of the divisions and truly making the world better and safer. That's amazing. Great. Thank you. So Chris, next one is for you. Dematic focuses sustainability communications around people, planet, and products framework. How does that framework inform the conversation around climate tech, in your opinion?
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, it really just focuses on our holistic strategy, and it's a nice framework. It flows off the tongue. It's easy to remember. So, by having the people, planet, and products, we are able to, whenever we communicate about one of those topics, we are able to connect it back. So it's really kind of this holistic packaging of the topics that tend to fall under sustainability or climate resilience. So, within people, you've got health and safety, you've got talent development, community, of course, and that is such an important thing to creating an equitable society. Is people working in the community to make it better for all. So, that's where we tie in those stories, and again, always anchor it to this is what we do to, make our, the things that we do as an organization more effective and a better workplace. Around planet, that's where we tend to, package our conversation around greenhouse gas emissions, our commitment to the climate goals, the SBTI net zero commitments that we make, things like our EcoVadis assessments and ISO certifications. Again, these things, they're not very meaningful unless you're in the world of sustainability and you really know what they are. But again, it's that storytelling. It's tying things together and making things relevant. And then for products, that's where we talk about our product innovations that make things safer for employees, whether it's in our own facilities or in our customer facilities, product safety, how we bring the life cycle solutions and services aspect of our business to extend our customers' assets life. So there's, again, less of an environmental impact. So that's really what we lean in on in terms of how we kind of package things up with the 3 Ps. So it's really served us well, and it's been a consistent theme. It's not something we look to alter every year because that also helps, people connect the dots. And then I would be remiss if I didn't talk about customers. The way we frame our conversations with customers is really about partnership. We talk about it that we're on a sustainability journey. There's no real endpoint here. So it is a journey. It's our journey within our own company, and it's a journey that we want to be on with our customers as a trusted partner. So that's really kind of from a communications perspective, how we try to, connect the dots, make it holistic, make it consistent, and engage our stakeholders.
Wonderful. No, that's great, Chris. Thank you. And would encourage our viewers to check out the Dematic Sustainability Report. You can see those 3 Ps and kind of how they're framing the conversation. It's incredibly well done. So definitely would encourage you to check that out. Great. Thank you both. Let's get into our next one. So In the context of internal communications, what's a successful example you've seen of a company using climate resilience efforts to either boost morale or attract talent or both? Kristen, would you like to start on that one?
Yeah, so I actually started my career in internal communications at UPS, working for Chris. So she was a person that I learned that really good external communications and brand communications starts with ensuring that your people internally are great ambassadors of the brand. Um, so within UL research institutes, particularly in the UL enterprise, I can tell you with great certainty that people join this organization because they're really passionate about the mission and they want to make a difference. And within internal communications, there's a lot of things that we do out in the world where our people are great ambassadors to those programs. So everything from next month is fire protection month, and there's a specific week that goes along with that. And so we partner with organizations to really get the message out on fire safety, whether you're at home or out in the world or in transportation. And we even tie like a lot of the work that we do even to some of our community engagement initiatives. So whether it's Earth Day and promoting safety through getting our employees again out there in the world and doing things for the communities in which we live and work, to our end of the year campaign, which we did a food insecurity drive called Nourish a Safer World. And so that Nourish a Safer World, although our business is not, food insecurity isn't a general thing that we do as an organization, but we also understand that we're trying to send a message of like making the world a safer place, and it's really hard to do that if you're food insecure. So our people really got behind helping take the work that we do and whether it was packing boxes at Thanksgiving or doing food drives, it also is an opportunity to bring the community and go and do some presentations and teach people about when you're cooking these meals that you might get, then how do you make sure that your kitchen is safe and your appliances are safe? So looking at how we protect human health in a world that's filled with risk is something that if we can get our people internally to be ambassadors of that message, then everywhere that they go out in the world, they're going to live by that example, and they're going to tell their friends, they're going to tell their family, and then hopefully just help to bring that message home.
Terrific. That's great. Thank you so much, Kristen. Chris, over to you with the same question.
Yeah, sure. And thanks, Kristen, for the reminder of great times in the past. And boy, you've come really far. And I love hearing all of what you're doing at UL. It's just amazing. I could listen to it for hours because it's so real. I mean, it totally is around us, no matter what we do. So yeah, those are great examples from an internal comms perspective, and many of the companies I've been at, we've also celebrated those things and got our people involved because that really is the best way to attract like-minded others. I want to approach this question a little differently because, as I mentioned, we automate for our customers, and there's some cool things that we do that really helps them attract talent and boost retention. And so we serve a lot of grocery customers, and we have a couple that are dealing with frozen food, and these are sub-zero environments. And one of the things that automation has done is allowed employees to get out of those freezers, out of those really uncomfortable working conditions because the tasks that have been automated. So that's improved safety all around, and again, well-being. So that's an example from a customer where real I don't think I could deal with working in sub-zero temperatures. That takes a commitment. And then also things like ergonomic picking stations and noise reduction technologies. Warehouses can be very loud. And so by using our innovations and bringing that to our customers, we're making the warehouse environment much more I guess, safer and a more comfortable place to work. So that those are two things, three things that we've seen our customers be able to leverage in terms of their communications and attracting and retaining employees. So, you're in a safe environment. Your hearing is protected. Your body mechanics are focused on, and this should hopefully lead to reduced turnover, higher retention, and this reputation of being innovative and forward thinking, and that's always going to attract good quality applicants. So it's definitely, you know, it these topics boost morale internally, as a company that brings that to other customers, and then our customers can then in turn use that as, selling points in their efforts with their employees.
That's such a cool example, Chris. Thank you. And yeah, I imagine technology and robotics and automation, the fact that it's changing jobs in a more positive way, improving work conditions, improving safety, that's incredible. So great example. Thank you for that. Great. Well, let's jump to a next one. So for a company that's just starting out in developing its resilience strategy, what would you say is a practical first step for the internal communications team? We'll switch things up. Chris, do you want to start with this one?
Sure, I was hoping you'd call on me. Uh, uh, the recipe is very simple for me. Develop a relationship with your sustainability team or whatever your company calls it, whether it's climate resistance or whatnot. Develop that relationship. I have a phenomenal relationship with our director of sustainability. We talk all the time. So that's first and foremost. And then develop that communication strategy. Think about it, from an annual perspective, and what are you going to do? What are you going to talk about? What is your storytelling approach? What topics are you going to want to highlight? Where are you going to update employees on the progress you're making in the sustainability journey? So have that comm strategy. Of course, it's fluid, just like any other topic. Celebrate wins. And then the last thing is be part of everything. So I insert myself into a lot of marketing and communications activities as the the person within our function that supports sustainability, because it's not an easy topic to talk about. So whether a region is doing a case study, really trying to push the envelope and say, okay, well, that's really kind of interesting, but have you thought about this angle and how it, really, how the solution really helps with energy efficiency? So really trying to drive the thought process a little bit more. So be a part of everything, you know, that's what I do.
I love it. So almost like wearing a reporter hat internally and helping teams figure out, what is newsworthy, what would the workforce be interested in, and how to bring those stories to life. And
Yep.
you have your sustainability champions to serve as an extension of your efforts. That's terrific. Love it.
Yep.
Kristen, over to you with that question.
Yeah, I don't even know how to follow up because that's the recipe. I think being out there, being ingrained, specifically for internal communications teams, in traditional commercial environments, you have your marketing folks that are, aligned with customers, and meeting with customers and seeing customers gives a great excuse for people to get out into the world and experience the business. With internal communications, oftentimes those staff members sit at a headquarters, they're part of a larger team, and they don't have those really natural opportunities to just get out there and experience the business. With us at UL Research Institutes, the way that research comes to life is through publications, it's through conferences, it's through our researchers speaking at engagements where they're sharing with their peers and building on each other's work. So sending your internal comms folks as reporters to those events, being embedded in the business, getting to really know the science and sitting with the scientists to help them translate it, we use this phrase about, science isn't done until it's communicated. And we take it even further and say science isn't done until it's communicated to the right people at the right time. And I think our internal comms folks really take that to the heart. And, communicating our science internally and celebrating, achievements that we have, breakthroughs that we experience. It's a great way to make sure that the whole of the organization understands what we're doing, because a lot of that work happens in a lab and people are heads down and they're working on that one thing, that one problem. But then when you pick it up and you look at the overall macro challenges that we're trying to solve, building resilience for a sustainable future, looking at individual and societal health, particularly in the 21st century with so much change and technology evolving. The practical first step is just to get that landscape, not be overwhelmed by it, and just get in and find those really great stories that illustrate the work that you're doing, the impact that you're having, and then, and have fun with it along the way and celebrate successes.
Love it. Love it. Right audience, right time. That absolutely sounds like the right recipe. Terrific. Great. Okay, let's jump to another one. How do you guys recommend companies measure the effectiveness of your internal comms around these topics, knowing they're quite complex, require language that's easy to understand? What are some different measurement methodologies? Kristen, do you want to start on that one?
Yeah, I mean, we use qualitative and quantitative metrics. I think, thankfully, we've developed better ways to measure things. I think internal comms, it was always a little more difficult or much more anecdotal in terms of feedback. And now we can track things like email open rates. We can track intranet traffic. We can track survey feedback. But we also listen. We do extensive Q&A sessions in the town halls that we hold. We do pulse surveys and we do informal feedback loops. We use, we're a Microsoft shop, so we have Viva Engage, which if you're using that as a two-way conversation vehicle for internal comms, it's a great way to get employee ideas, like see what people are talking about, and do it in kind of an informal way where people feel a little less resistance to share their opinion, or that they're intimidated to share something that they might not think the organization would be interested in hearing. So I definitely think there's as much to learn from your informal channels and how you measure engagement in those as there is in your formal surveys and town halls. So it's not just about reach, it's also about behavior change and resonance. And so we can hear that in the way that our people talk. What are they posting about on LinkedIn? What are they sharing with their friends and family? So, it's not rocket science particularly, but you do have to measure it and then see what works and what doesn't, and tweak it from there.
That's great. That's great. Terrific. Chris, over to you with that one.
Yeah, pretty much everything Kristen said. And really, this topic isn't unlike any other internal comms topic, but it is more of a complex one. I think the only other thing I would add, because things like the pulse surveys, we do a communications effectiveness survey every year, and we do have the opportunity to add specific questions about that. And then I'll mention again our Sustainability Champions Network. So that is, real employees talking, informally. And then we also have a Sustainability Champions leadership group. So we meet monthly and we talk about topics that we're hearing about. But yeah, all of those measurement items for internal comms and really a lot of the channels that you use traditionally for internal comms can all be mined for keeping your pulse on the conversation around climate resilience and equity and sustainability, whatnot.
That's great. That's great. Love the communication effectiveness survey. Is that, assume that's in addition to an employee engagement survey? That's something separate.
Yes.
Got it. Got it. That's great. Love it. Love it. Okay. So next one, how can a focus on climate resilience, specifically nature, tech, and equity, in communicating those efforts, help a company position itself as an employer of choice in a highly competitive market? Chris, do you want to start this time on that one?
Sure. Some of the examples I mentioned earlier, showing that commitment to employee well-being, that commitment to communities and being out in the communities, making them a better place to live and work, showing that your company takes environmental responsibility seriously, which really focuses on long-term stability for all of us. Um, let's see what else. Demonstrating purpose-driven leadership. So that's real important. It's really, one of the things that I know I want to work for a company where, leaders have the values I share and that you're purpose driven and it's not just all about ROI. It's about making the company a better place, making our customers more successful, making the world a better place. So I think that is really important, and it shows that you're future focused and innovative. And then also creating a culture of engagement and empowerment. This is really important, and really helps be an employer of choice. I think those are things that I've experienced at companies, some well, some not so well. But those are some things that I think really help with that whole employee value proposition and attracting and keeping talent and feeling like you're working for an organization that is purpose driven and is doing right by the world.
I love it. That's great. I love the notion of empowerment with employees and really, enticing employees to take what they've learned about organization sustainability efforts and communicate those in their own words more broadly to their networks. That's terrific. Great. Kristen, over to you with that one.
Yeah, I definitely think, climate resilience and companies that are focused there, it can inspire a really great sense of hope. And I think that, in addition to corporate values, when people feel like they're working in an environment or contributing to something that envisions a future that's even better than what we have today, that's how you're going to get the next generation or people to be interested in science careers or STEM careers. And um, you think about the world that we're in today and just the avalanche of information and content that's coming at us all the time. And to inspire hope in youth, and we get out into the schools and we share our research and we do really hands-on things to get young people interested in science. And that wasn't something I had when I was a kid. You sort of your career was chosen for you a little bit back when I was in grade school or middle school. You were either a creative kid or you were a science kid, and like that was the path you were put on. And now we're using creativity and we're using storytelling to say, no matter what you're passionate about, you can have a career in science and you can make a difference for our climate and for our planet by coming to work for us at UL Research Institutes. And it doesn't hurt us that we do some really cool stuff, and particularly in our fire safety division, we have to set a lot of stuff on fire to see what happens and to make it safe. And so if you want to see some really cool stuff, you come to our lab and you watch them burn an electric vehicle to see how it differs from a traditional internal combustion engine. And it's something you can't imagine until you see it. And I'm sure for the people who were in those experiments, to go home and be able to tell their kids, yeah, I got to burn some cars today, but I did it so that we can make sure that if we're marching towards a climate resilient future, we need EVs and we need those EVs to be safe. And that's the difference that we're making. So for me, the storytelling and working with our scientists and developing an ability to create hope, that's the best we can do in terms of being an employer of choice.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, I can attest I have a 10 and a 7-year-old who would be all about a burning car. They're both very into science too, so I'll have to tell them to consider UL down the road as an employer. That's great. I love it. Great. So we've got a couple more questions. So in both of your experiences, how do different levels of employees from frontline workers all the way up to the C-suite receive and engage messages about climate resilience and nature, tech, and equity? And how do you tailor your approach based on these different types of internal audiences? Kristen, you want to take that one first?
Yeah, so in my history, I've worked in other organizations where we had a lot more variety of employees from frontline to, leadership. And in this particular organization, because of the work that we do have a lot of researchers that are in labs. We're not manufacturing, so we don't have that particular work group. But we do have a lot of support functions. And so there's some people that the science is second nature to them. They can talk in technical terms. They all understand the same language. But then you have, your support functions, your headquarter, your leadership that, we do need to translate that and we do need to make it real. So tailoring communications, looking at the tone, giving broad updates through things like newsletters and our town halls, but then really offering, we do biweekly workshops where we dive into the actual research, and our researchers join these lunch and learns to hear from their peers and just get a sense for the kind of work that they're doing. So everything from the most technical to the most broad, I think it's always about looking at the messages and tailoring them to the distinct audiences that you have.
Makes a ton of sense. And love the researcher lunch and learn. A great concept. Very cool. Chris, over to you on this one.
Yeah, a little bit similar. We do have a lot of frontline workers, so we have manufacturing facilities around the world. So, as far as communications, again, it's connecting to what they do through the storytelling, bringing real examples to life. Um, Leadership, that's an important audience. Our leadership is very much engaged as part of our sustainability, executive committee. So they obviously are aware of and are, the conversation around strategy and risk management and business value is more topical for them. And but this is an audience that I feel like is often overlooked, and that's that frontline management or the people management, the middle managers. And it's so important to make sure that they have a sense of where things stand, not that high level strategy, but really, making it speaking in a language that is relatable, so then they can again connect the dots with their employees when necessary. So, we've got a bunch of engineers. So, yeah, I would think that they would think this cradle to cradle certification of the Dematic multi-shuttle, which has been around for about 20 years and was really instrumental in the industry, um, that is probably that might pique their interest. But yeah, we have to tailor the message to the various audiences so they know what it is. So that was one of the things Kristen mentioned, and is really important, is using the different channels that you have and the language that you need to use for different audiences. That is all how you reach people, and you're not going to connect with everyone on every topic. I mean, we know that, but it's just trying to not just do one size fits all communications, especially with such a complicated topic that some of this can be.
Absolutely. No, that's great. That's great. And great point about people, leaders, and equipping them with what they need to have these conversations, whether that be in a one-on-one or in a pre-shift huddle, or I imagine, obviously they know all the channels and mechanisms that are the best opportunities. So just setting them up for success
Mhm.
with communication. Love it. Love it. Great. Well, we've made it all the way to our last question. So in looking ahead, what would you say is one major trend that you would expect to see in the next 3 to 5 years for how organizations can communicate climate resilience, nature, tech, and equity related topics in communication? Chris, do you want to start on this last one?
Yeah, this is kind of difficult. And I think it's hard. I'm gonna say two things because I think it depends upon the region in which you're operating or you're thinking about. Um, so in Europe, they've been on a bit of this journey a bit longer, or it's been something that's needed to be incorporated into business strategy for a while, really from a compliance perspective. But it's really, I think the trend is going to shift from compliance as it has been to impact. What kind of impact are these, whether it's regulations or, commitments to climate emissions reductions? What is the impact of that sustainability investment or that climate resilience strategy? So I think that hopefully is a positive trend that we'll see. And then in the United States, I think, I guess we'll kind of see. The good news is that, as I mentioned, we're still seeing that our customers are really still focused on sustainability. They're not rolling back efforts. They've definitely decreased communications about the topics, but I think that it's still a priority. And as I mentioned earlier, talking about these topics in relation to that return on investment and about things like energy consumption, that's business. So I think that trend is still going to continue.
Terrific. Makes a ton of sense. Thank you for that. Kristen, over to you.
Yeah. Well, we made it an hour without bringing up AI. So I have to bring up AI because that feels like the trend that's impacting everything. And the good news is I think it's impacting a lot of the work that we do in climate resilience and a lot of the research in positive ways. It allows our scientists to cut through a lot of data and a lot of experiments and really see things that maybe it would take pouring through hours and days of data for a human being to recognize a pattern. And so using AI to our competitive advantage, that's a thing that our scientists are doing. But what it means for us in communications, again, we've got to cut through the noise. And so there is a lot of, content being generated every day from all different arenas. So for organizations and communicators, I don't think we should fear AI, but I think that we should remember that there's one thing that AI can't do, and it's bring authentic, personal stories to life. And so integrated storytelling that, brings together personal narratives and talks about the difference that the work that we do makes for individuals, for countries, for societies, for the world, is going to be the thing that that helps us. We can use technology to do more immersive storytelling. Reaching people in places where they are is going to continue to be a thing. And communications are going to become more interactive, more personalized, and if we're doing our jobs, they're going to be more emotionally resonant. And so I think that that's a trend that if we get ahead of and not worry about whether AI is going to replace our ability to tell stories, but really use it to enhance the way that we tell stories, that'll help us to not only meet our climate resilience goals, but to share them in a way that really has an impact on the world.
Love it. Love it. Emotionally resonant. I mean, that's spot on in terms of the value that we as communicators will always be able to bring that AI can't do as well, right?
Right.
Wonderful. Well, wow, we've covered a lot of ground in the past hour. Thank you both so much for an extremely insightful, engaging conversation. Thank you to everybody who tuned in for this webinar. We hope you enjoy the remainder of Climate Week. If you have any questions or follow-ups, or you would like to connect with Kristen, Chris, or myself, we would encourage you to find us on LinkedIn and connect. We'd be happy to do that, either with questions or just for networking. But yes, that concludes the webinar. So thank you so much again. Thank you to you both for being wonderful panelists. I hope everyone takes good care, and we'll see you next time.